Good. Okay, so here we go. I don't know if anybody can remember. Good to see you, man. Where we were last week. We're going to kind of go through. I'm going to give kind of a rundown of where we were last week, and then we're going to start. And we're going to continue on. And we ended in temptation, right? That's where we ended. And I think that we're gonna continue on in that a little bit today, because I think that's a big thing. So we now have Joseph is out of the pit, right? We've taken months to get him out of the pit, man. He's down in Egypt. So he is progressing in his household, in Potiphar's house, and he's lifting up and he's being elevated, and he's the head of the house now. So what happens when anytime, I'm telling you, in our life, anytime that anytime that we start to make progress and things start to go well and the devil hammers us, right? I was talking to somebody at work today and I said, we're trying to do things for the Lord, and it's just like continually you are getting hammered. And he's like, well, don't you think that's just the way the world is, and the way, yeah, it could be, but I'm telling you, the more that we do for God, the more that we are going to get hammered. So you have Joseph that's being lifted up, and he's elevated, and he's doing his thing, right? And then what happens? You have the wife, right? We talked about the wife, and we talked about what happens with that, and when she goes and starts to we're over here in Genesis 39, and we're just going to kind of go, and then she starts to form an attraction to Joseph, and this attraction, she feels that she has the right to that because she is his boss, really. I mean, she's over him, and she's saying, look, I want you to lie with me. And what was the reason that he gave? He gave a bunch of reasons on that he's the head of the house and that all this, but what was the primary thing that he said that was the reason that he could not do that? You're over here, let's look at Genesis 39. We're not going to go over this much, but over up in verse, I guess that's verse 9, he said that he cannot do this great wickedness against what? And sin against God, right? So his focus was on the Lord, and that's what he didn't want to do. And anytime we take a stand for the Lord, I'm telling you, is it going to get easier for us? It's going to get more difficult. And it's like a challenge to the world, and it's a challenge to people to say, no. So where are we at in this? As he takes this stand, and as he takes a stand, and as we take a stand, does that mean that this temptation is going to flee? Does that mean that our temptations in life are going to go away? And I was just thinking about that, and as we're talking about this right here, as we deal with these great temptations and these things in our lives, and what does the Lord always give us? What did we say last week? You remember what, if you look over there in 1 Corinthians 10:13, right? What is it that the Lord gives us when a temptation comes on us? Are we stuck in that temptation? Are we stuck in that place? The Lord always provides what?
The Lord always provides a way out.
Lord always provides a way out. And I'm telling you, the problem is, and the things that, the Lord provides the way out, but what do we not want to do? When we are tempted, obviously it is something that we are attracted to, or we're whatever with. And as we get tempted, and the Lord says, look, Chad, here's the door. All you got to do is come over here and trust me and walk out this door. And I just kind of, do I take the way of escape? And it's, I mean, we just got to think about that. I mean, you got to think about, are we going to take that way of escape, or are we going to just deal with that temptation? If we take the way of escape, then we can get out there. But as we don't, and what does it mean when he says to the way of escape, what does it mean that you do when you try to escape? Because what do we live our lives in? And I was thinking about this week, that we are living our life are we living on the fence? As you look at your life, are you living on the fence of what you're doing? And I want to live for God. I want to do what he wants me to do. I want to stay away from the things that I shouldn't be doing. But on the same hand, I don't want to completely cut those things off. I want to lay them down, and I want to forget them, and I want to get away from them. But I don't want to put them too far away from me, that if I decide I want to go back to it, right, that it's still right there and it's still close enough. We cannot live on the fence. And so what he's doing, as you look at Joseph in this thing, he is telling her, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this sin. I'm not going to do it against God. The Lord's providing the escape. He's trying to stay away, but does that always work with with the way temptation goes, as I say, I'm going to stay away from it and I'm going to get away from it. And what happens with that thing? The more you do it, as we read on right here, it says that, he wanted to lie, and she said no, and he wasn't going to do it. And you look down in verse 11, it says, but it happened about that time when Joseph went into the house to do his work, right? None of the men of the house were inside. She caught him by the garment. She did not stop. And what I'm telling you is that it doesn't matter what the temptation is, it's going to keep on coming. And as we're living our life, and it's going to keep on coming. I want to look now, where do we feel like the temptations come from? Where, I don't know if that's a point or an understanding that you can think about, but where is temptation coming from in our life? Is it the Lord that sends temptation, or is it the devil that sends temptation? Because I think that, let's look over here at James 1. James 1, we're going to go into verse 13. I think this is a valid thing when you think about it. Is the devil gonna, let's look over here, James 1, and think about where that temptation in our life comes from, because I'm going to tell you that it is not the Lord that is sending that temptation to us. It is not the Lord that is giving us that temptation. James 1, good morning, guys. Good to see you. James 1, and you guys don't have to sit at this table right here. James 1, and I want to go over to James 1, and we're going to talk about this, because how do we see the temptations in our lives? Do we really understand a temptation is just that? It tempts us to do something that we should not be doing, right? Do we really see the results of the temptations that come on us, and what effects they have on us, and what they do to us in our lives? It's easy to just see that, hey, this thing over here, but no, they really have an effect. You look at James 1, we're going to look at verse 12, okay? James 1:12. I just want you to think about where temptations come from and what they do in our lives. James 1:12, it says, blessed is the man who endures temptation. Now, let's think about that. Blessed is the man who endures temptation. What does it mean to endure a temptation? What does it mean to endure anything in your life? When you think about that, is that something that I'm just gonna get over and it's a quick thing, or is that what endurance is? What is endurance? If I go out and I run a race, you gotta go through it. You're gonna have to endure through it. It's gonna be a struggle as you're going through it. We've got to look at our Christian life, right? We've got to look at our walk with the Lord. Is that, look, man, my life is not going to be easy. I'm going to have things come on me. I'm going to have things go on, and I need to endure through those things. It says, blessed is the man who endures temptation. And it says that endurance is not just right now. That endurance is throughout your whole life. It's our whole Christian walk, right? And it says that temptation, for when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life. Now, what is that saying? It says, as we endure that temptation, as we are approved, when we get to the end and the Lord looks at us and he says, well done, good and faithful servant, you've made it through, you are approved. And what does he get? He gets the crown of life. Now, what is the crown of life? That is your salvation. That is your acceptance into God. That is, as I win the race, I get the trophy, I get the blessing of God. And he says, look, man, you've gone through this thing, you've made it through, you've endured through it, and here's your crown of life. It says, which the Lord has promised to those who love him. Now, I want to read this here. Let no one say when he is tempted, I'm tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. Now, what did the Lord ever have to go through temptations? When you think about his life, and when you talk about we don't have a high priest that just doesn't know what we go through and doesn't have to go through the things that we go through. What happened with the Lord when he was after he fasted for 40 days over in Matthew? And he came to the mountaintop. He was hungry, he was fasted, he was depleted. What did the devil do to him? What?
He tempted him.
Right. You can look, you can have all this. He said, I know you're hungry. You see these stones? Let's make these bread. I know you're standing on this pinnacle. Look, why don't you cast yourself off, and the devil will catch you and lift you up. I know that you want all this world and everything, and I'm going to tell you what, all you have to do is bow down to me, and you can accept this and you can have it. You don't have to go through the cross. You don't have to endure that. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You can just come through that thing and just get to the end, and you can do it. The Lord had to go through temptations. Temptations are not things that I mean, I think we look at God and we think that he just sits up there and he doesn't have any idea about what we're going through and the struggles that I have to go through daily and the things that are hard. And it says, as you go through those, God does not tempt you. He cannot be tempted. And he does not tempt anyone. And we're still over there, James 1. Now this is verse 14. But each one, I want you to listen to this. When he is tempted, he is drawn away by what? What does it say there? He is drawn away by his own desires. I want to point something out right here. This is for everybody, and I was thinking about this. Do we know what our desires are? Do we know what we are prone to fall to? As I talk to my kids and you guys, and that, look, if I know that I'm prone to drink too much alcohol, if I know that I'm prone to sexual sin, if I know that I'm prone to pride, right? Do I have to be aware of that? Because it says right here in the word, it says that when you are tempted, you are drawn away by your own desires. If I know, and if we know what we are desiring, then what do we need to do in our life? We need to stay away from that thing, right? Because what do we do when I know that when I'm desiring something? I kind of try to hang out by that thing. Because listen, I'm not really going to do this, and I really don't, but I don't want to leave it because I really have a temptation to it. I want to kind of hang out around that. When we do that, what does our flesh do? What happens in our flesh? Our flesh is weak. I'm telling you, and as we go through life, when we are drawn away and we hang out and we stick by whatever it is that tempts us, then we're gonna fall, right? And I want you to understand that it says when your desire, it says you are drawn away by your own desires and enticed. Does the devil know what we're going through? Does he know the things that we're prone to fall to? And does he entice us with those? He
Yes,
dangles
he
this out
does.
here. Yes, he does. He dangles it out here and says, look, Chad, you don't have to do all, look, you can have this right here. This is easy. You can take this. Nobody will see it. Nobody knows. Joseph is a 17-year-old kid. This woman is intriguing him and enticing him, and the devil knows that, right? The devil knows what we go through. It doesn't really matter. And it says he will entice you. We need to stay away from that, because if we don't, we will fall to that, right? And what happens when we fall to it? This is the kicker right here when it says you will be drawn away by your own desires and you'll be enticed. Then when desire has conceived, okay, I want you to think about this. When that desire has conceived, when I hang out in that desire, when I hang out by that temptation, when I just kind of mull around that thing, it is going to conceive. What does it mean? You talk about, with Shane and his wife, and what is conception? That seed, it takes seed and it takes root and it plants in you and it grows, right? And it says right here, it says when that desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, right? It gives birth to sin. And what is sin in our life? Do we realize what sin does in our life? And the word tells us what is sin in our life. The word tells us what we shouldn't be doing. The word gives us direction on that. We just don't want to see it, right? And it says when that sin is fully grown, what does it do? It brings forth to what? To death. Now, what is death? Does that mean that I'm physically gonna, because I fall to a temptation, I fall to a addiction, I fall to whatever it is, that I'm gonna literally be killed? Maybe you may be killed. I mean, you may be taken out by that thing. It may be death of a relationship, right? It may be death with my relationship with the Lord, with my family, with my kids.
Right.
What was it? Right. Spiritual death. That's right. It's death of something. When I fall to that temptation, something always dies. And I'm telling you, as you go through life, and as I go through life, and you have little pieces of you dying and little things dying, and we're allowing that to do, and then we get to a point in our life where we look at our situation, we say, how did I get here, man? Because I allowed that temptation to take seed in my life, producing that sin, which is producing that death, right? And that is bringing me further away from the Lord. And I'm telling you, but it says that we know what our desires are. We can stop that because we know what tempts us, but we do not want to do it because I don't want to get too far away from it, because, well, then it might go away from me, right? So let's move on to that. And that's something that, as you look at Joseph, and he knew the desire, he knew the temptation, He was trying to stay away from that. But does that mean that that temptation is going to continually just leave? No, it's not. And the more that we are tempted, and I'm telling you that, and I look at it like Sharon talks about my patience, right? Anybody that knows me, huh? No, not my patience that I see at home health, my patience, my attitudes, my explosive behavior, right? She knows about that. And she says, until you get that under control, until you figure that out, then the Lord is going to test you on that. So it may not even be a temptation but it may be just a struggle in your life that the Lord will test you on and continually test you on until you get it, because that's ruining my testimony. That's killing my testimony. That's that my testimony is dying because of that. But so she kept on coming back to him, right? And she says that she caught him by the garment. This is back over in Genesis 39.
Come sit with mommy. Come here.
Okay. She continually kept to calling him on there and going there and whatever and saying, lie with me. And you're over in Genesis 39. And he says, but he left with his garment in his hand, right? So she literally grabbed him, right? And said, you are going to lie with me. And what did he do? He left with his garment in his hand and he ran, right? He actually turned around and ran. Now, what does it mean to I want you to turn over with me over here to James 1:4, okay? And I want you to read this, because what sometimes, I talked about being on the fence and kind of being, part in, part out, and never really getting away from that. But what does it say over there in James 1? Let me look. James 4:7. I'm sorry. James 4:7. And I want you to, because this is the only way that we'll ever be able to do that. He knew Joseph knew what God wanted him to do, right? He actively pursued what God wanted him to do and actively resisted. Okay. So what does it say in James 4:7? This is good for our life. I mean, I'm telling you, as we get further on in life, the temptations get more, struggles get more, life gets harder, right? We've all seen that. I'm telling you, it's going to keep on coming on. It says over there in James 4:7, therefore, submit to God. So that is the first thing. Submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. What does it mean to submit to God? This is when Joseph said, I cannot do this great evil. I cannot do this sin. I cannot do this against God. That is saying, look, Lord, I know what you have in my life. I know what you want for my life, and I'm going to submit myself to you. What is it? What do we like the word submission? Do we like to submit to anybody? We do not like to submit. My kids I'm testimony of that. I mean, nobody likes to submit, but why submit to God? Does he have, what is his interest in our life? He wants the best for us. I mean, and I'm telling you, when we look at his stuff and people say, well, Lord wants to keep this from me and he wants me to be unhappy and he wants me to be this. No, he wants the best that we have. He wants you to submit to him so that you can have a fuller life, right? Submit to God. And oh yeah, continually saying that we're gonna miss out on something, or we're gonna, whatever. But submitting to the Lord and what he has, it is only for our best interest. And it says, not only when you submit to God, what do? Resist the devil. Now, I was thinking about this, resisting the devil, right? He's going to throw a temptation on you. I've got to say, Lord, I cannot handle this on my own. I'm telling you, how many temptations and falling to temptations have killed families, have killed relationships, have killed my testimony, right? This is resisting to the devil, submitting to God. When I resist the devil, okay, is that like a passive resistance? Does that make sense to you? Am I just I have an intruder come in my house, right? Kicks in my front door and comes in my house and says, I'm gonna take your things, I'm gonna take your kids, I'm gonna take your wife. Resisting that intruder, does that look like me just kind of floating around and saying, well, stop, don't do that? Oh, gosh, I guess oh man, and there he goes. Is that resisting? What am I gonna do in that situation? I'm gonna bust that dude in the chops, man, right? I'm gonna fight him. I'm gonna hammer him. That is resisting. When we have a temptation in our life that comes up, when we have something that is challenging, because it's the same thing, that temptation is the same thing as wanting to take my family, right? If I fall to that, who knows? It wants to take my testimony. And I have to actively resist that, just like I would resist an intruder in my life. When I resist that, it says over here in James 4:7, submit to God, resist the devil, he will flee, okay, from you. The devil will flee. Will he come back? Yeah, he will. But you resist him, you submit to God, and he's going to flee from you. And it says, and then when I flee from when the devil flees from me, it says, draw near to God, and he will draw near to me. Not only am I resisting, I'm resisting this in the world, but I'm getting closer to what God has for me. What does it mean to get closer to God? Reading your Bible more, being with people that are of the same mindset as you, being, doing what you need to do to get closer to God. Whenever I get closer to God, right? Does he get closer to me? Right. Draw near to God, he's going to draw near to me, right? Is yes. Can they hear you on this? Oh, yeah, whatever you put in your mind, or whatever she's saying, that television or whatever, that is drawing nearer to God, right? Doing a Bible study, getting with people that are of like-mindedness as I am, right? Doing what I should be doing. That is, does that mean that I lose my salvation? Can I lose my salvation? Can I lose my relationship? No, but can I get dry in it? Can we dry up in it? Can I get to the point where it doesn't affect me anymore? That stuff that's going on in my life as I get further out and further away from the Lord. Yeah. I mean, that's what happens, right? So this was David resisting, fleeing. He literally picked up and fled. Now, what happened? What happened when he did that? Let's read on. Let's go back over here to Genesis uh, 39, and we're gonna read on here. So she grabbed a hold of him, and she tried to get him to lay with her, and he said no, and he said, I'm resisting, I'm fleeing, I'm running towards God, because that's what he was doing, running out of the house towards God. And what happened? It says that she ripped his garment off, right? We had said that, she literally took his coat off, man. He lost his coat when he was thrown into the pit or the well. Now he's lost his coat when he's resisting God, right? And he's like, what is going on, man? I mean, he doesn't get this. He's trying to do what God has called him to do, and he keeps getting hammered in that. And it says, and so it was when she saw that he left his garment in her hand and fled outside, that she called the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, she has brought me into a Hebrew to mock us. He came to lie with us. This is in Genesis 39, verse 14. He came in to lie with me and cried out with a loud voice. And it happened when he heard, I lifted my voice and I cried out, and he left his garment and fled and went outside. And I wrote in my Bible here, he lost his coat, kept his character, right? Lost his coat, but kept his character. Okay. But my next question is, who are we cozied up to? If that makes sense. Am I cozied up to the world? And what do I mean by cozied up to the world? Am I trusting in the world? Am I putting my faith in the world? Am I friends with the world? Because what happens here? She's all Potiphar's wife is all good, and she's on board with him, and everything's going well until he resists her, right? Now, what about when we're out there in the world and we're hanging out with the world and things seem to be going good, and they're doing good, and then they want us to do something that we shouldn't be doing, and they say, well, come over here and let's go over here to this party, or let's go over here and do this, or let's whatever it is in our life. What is the world going to do to us? When I have friendships with the world, and when I'm associated with the world, does that mean that I can't be part of it? I mean, there's a you cannot be intertwined with the world and the people of the world that are not of like mind as us. Does that make sense? Because what is going to happen as soon as these guys are out at a party with their friends, right? And they say, hey, let's come out here and let's do this, drink this, come over, do whatever it is you're going to do. And they say, no, I'm going to take a stand for the Lord. And what are they going to do? They're going to say, oh, that's great, man. That's great for you to do that. And no, they're going to throw you under the bus. What did she do to Joseph? She literally threw him under the bus. I want to read over here because I just want you to understand that we have to have a relationship with the world. And when I say the world, I mean people that are just out in society, people that are around people, but you cannot put them in where that's where I put my faith in. Those are the people that I can trust. So who are the people that we should be able to trust? The people that are like-minded as us. reading the Bible, praying, prayer groups, doing, these are the people that are going to stick with us. I think we've had a big thing with the church that you have a lot of hypocrites, right? I mean, are there a lot of people leaving the church? Why are there a lot of people leaving the church? Because the people of the church are no different than the people of the world. And I'm just praying that we would be different, that we would be faithful. When somebody calls me up and needs to be prayed for, when somebody needs help, that you are the ones that would step out and help and pray for them and be with them, right? That we're different, that we show that we're different. Let's go over there to 1 John 2. Let's go to 1 John 2. And this is, I just want you to, 1 John 2. I'm gonna get over there. 1 John 2. And let's look at 15, okay? And this is 1 John 2:15. Do not love the world or the things in the world, okay? If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. What does it mean to love the world? That means that I am putting more credence in what the world tells me to do. It says, do not love the world or the things that are in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. As I get further in your Christian walk, my Christian walk, our life with the Lord, we should what? We should leave the things of the world, right? I should not have the same desires that I have. I shouldn't long after the same things that I long after. I shouldn't put my faith in those things, right? It says, because those are, because that's all it is lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes. That's pride of life. That's all about me, right? It says the love of the Father is not in it. That's of the world. And it says the world is passing away, right? The world is passing away. That new car that I lust after, or that I want, or that I spend, or that new whatever, or the pride that I want in life, and the way that I want recognition, and all that stuff is passing away. And it says, but he who does the will of God abides forever. Where should we put our effort? Where should we put our effort? Right? We should put our effort in serving the Lord, right? And doing what he would have us to do, and be like Joseph and say, you know what, man, I know there's a temptation there, but I don't care what I lose. I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to stand my ground, and I'm going to stay faithful, and I'm going to serve the Lord, because God has the best intention for us. God has the best intention for us. And that, I mean, that's where we are. And I don't know how we feel like we're doing in that. But that's what we need to be doing. Is that hard? No. We talked about renewing ourselves daily, praying daily, spiritually lifting ourselves up, lifting the Lord up in our lives. So it says here, so she ran outside of the house, right? The people that were in the house, the servants and everybody that's around, in case that thing went bad, right? In case he refused her, then they were all close enough that she could what? She could yell out and say, somebody help me, right? I need help, man. Don't think that the world is not there waiting for us to fall, waiting for us to fail, waiting for us to do whatever, so that they can yell out and say, look at that Christian, man. That one calls themselves, they're godly, and they're doing this, and they're waiting on us to do that, right? Just so they can call us out. And it says that he ran out of the house. It says, but in a great house. Okay, so we're back over here. Let's go back to Genesis 39. He came to me to lie with me, and it says in verse 16, Genesis 39:16. So she kept his garment, and until her master came home, right? Now, then she spoke to him words like these, saying, the Hebrew servant whom you brought into the house came to me to mock me. So it happens, as I lifted my voice and cried out, he left his garment. She blamed everything on him, right? I mean, she blamed everything on him. They were standing right there, man. And I'm telling you, as soon as we fail, as soon as we do something we shouldn't do, believe that the world is going to be out there calling you a hypocrite and saying, right, you can't win, man. I'm telling you, we can't win. The only way we can do it is to stay focused on the Lord. He was assaulted, and I mean, it was just so the servant of the house came home, right? I mean, the master of the house, let's look down here, 19. So it was when the master heard the words of his wife, which he spoke, saying, your servant did me in this manner. His anger was aroused. You believe that? I mean, of course, he's fired up. how fired up was he? Look, it says Joseph's master took him, put him into prison. Now, what is the penalty of what Joseph did to his wife back then? What would be the penalty? Death. So why did he get thrown into prison and not get death? Why do you think? I mean, he knew what his wife was like, but for his right, he had to do something, right? He had to do something, so he chose to throw him into prison. Okay, now this is where you make a transition. Okay, and I want you to think about this. Joseph is at the head of the game in Potiphar's house, right? He's at the head of the house, doing everything. He's at the highest position he can be in, right? What is God's goal in Joseph's life? What's his goal for Joseph's life? His goal is to be the head of Egypt, to be over Egypt, right? Well, he can't go any further, so he has to go a different avenue to begin a different path. Okay, so we may be, and I want you to think about our lives, and we think about, man, I'm here and I've been doing good, and all of a sudden, I get hammered and something happens and I get knocked back, and now I'm back down here in a different position. Well, do we know what the Lord has for our lives? Do we know so just because Joseph now looks like he's in a lower position and he's back in prison, this is the new course. So he's going this way, he hit the top. The Lord set him back down onto a new course so that he can go through the ranks of that course to elevate him to the position that he needs to be put in. He would never make that position if he remained in Potiphar's house, right? And does he see that? I don't know. Do we see it in our life? When the Lord shuts a door in our life, something else opens up. Is that always what we want it to be? No. And do we know when you're going through an illness, or you're going through trials, or you're going through struggles, or you're financially or whatever, relationship wise, we do not know what God is wanting us to do. We don't know what the plan for our life is, but I'm telling you, the Lord knows. And what he tells us to do is to continue to stay on the path, continue to be faithful, continue to do what you're supposed to be doing, because I've got a plan for your life. And that's what he's telling Joseph right there. Now, I want you to read over here, and this is a good scripture, John 10. Let's look over at John 10. And I want you, because what is it? Let's look. John 10. We've heard this scripture before. John 10.
Good.
10. You all there? Okay, John 10:10. So we'll start at verse 7. But then Jesus said to them again, most assuredly, now this is the Lord speaking, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and he will go in and out and find pasture, right? That's just talking about our salvation with the Lord. Now, verse 10 says, the thief. Who is the thief? Who is the thief? The thief is the devil, right? The thief is Satan. The thief is the prince of the air, the one that is coming against us. It says the thief, what does he come? Does not come except to steal, to kill, and to destroy. If we do not follow what God would have us to follow, if we do not do what the Lord would put in our path and be faithful to him. Now, there's a difference when I am actively pursuing something that I shouldn't be pursuing, right? We have our guidance in the Bible. We have our guidance. The Lord tells us what we should do and what we shouldn't do, right? If I'm actively pursuing something that is against God's will or his word, then that's different, right? But if I'm going my course and doing my thing and things seem to be falling apart to me, and I'm following God's word, then I just need to keep on going, right? Because the devil, it says right here, he comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Maybe we will be lifted up in our world, and we may be, if we follow his path and do what he wants us to do, we may feel like we're progressing or we're doing better, but I'm telling you, he wants to kill, steal, and destroy. He hates us, right? He hates us. He literally wants to ruin our testimony, ruin our life, ruin our family, ruin our walk, ruin our health. I don't care what it is. It says he comes to kill, destroy. And it says that what the Lord comes to, he says that I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. I want you to think about that. More abundantly, right? Does that mean more money? Does that mean more status? Does that mean whatever you think it means in your life? Whatever God puts in our life for us to do, that is more abundantly. He wants to bless us. He knows what we need to be blessed. He knows what we need in our lives. And I'm telling you, I've said it before, but I see people in home health and that they're out there and they're sitting on their porch. They barely have enough to make it. They're rocking in their rocking chairs. They've been faithful to their wife or their husband for years. They've been faithful to God. They've been reading their Bible. They've been studied. They've been on the course. Do they have a huge house? Do they have a bunch of money? Do they have? No, but they are more abundant in their life than we are, running around like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to get this. I'm trying to get this. I'm trying to make this. I'm trying to be this. I'm trying to. And God's saying, look, slow down, man. Focus on me. Look at what's important in life. We will lose ourselves if we do that. And I mean, I'm telling you, I'm right there. I'm running around like a, and we need to slow down and focus on what, because the devil uses that to kill us and to destroy us. I mean, plain and simple. So anyway, so Joseph gets thrown into prison, right? So let's read on here. We're back over in Genesis 39, and it says, and there he was. It says, let's go to verse 20. Then Joseph's master took him, put him in prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined. Now, that's important right there. Just like I said before, he had reached his maximum placement in Potiphar's house. Now he's stuck in prison, even though he feels like he's at the bottom of the chain now. He is in the prisoners of the king, right? He is in the prisoner of the king. So that is where he has the opportunity to speak to people that are of higher status, because that's where the king puts him down there. And it says that he was confined there with the prison, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy. Now, I got a question for, and I asked Sharon this morning. Why did Joseph not say anything? That's a question. Why did he not say anything? What I mean, why did he not, when he's there, he's following God, right? He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. I'm serving. I'm rejecting this lady over here because, God, I'm trying to follow you. He gets trapped. He loses his garment. He gets the king comes home, or the Potiphar comes home and says, hey, man, you did this to my wife. Now you're going to prison. And did we have any scripture that says he said anything about that? Like he defended himself or gave anything. And why did he not do that? You know, you talk about that Joseph is an example of the Lord, right? And there's a parallel between them. What did Christ say when he was being accused, when he was standing before the council, and they're saying, you're saying that you are the Son of God. You're lifting yourself up to that status where you say you're the Son of God. And what did Jesus say? Didn't say anything. Didn't say anything. Why didn't he say anything? The Lord knew that he was brought here for a purpose. That was the course that he had to take, right? So he was letting the Lord lead in his life and doing what he was supposed to do. Joseph knew he'd been following God. He'd been praying to God. He'd been in tune with him, giving him glory. So the only thing that I can assume there is that he said, you know what, man, I've been doing what you want me to do, Lord. I'm on your course. You've brought me this far. You brought me out of the pit, man. You brought me to this place here. I'm still doing what you want me to do. If you want me to be in prison, then I guess that's where you want me to be. And I'm not going to argue about it, and I'm not going to fight about it. I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm just going to go and be obedient to where you want me to go. Does that mean that we should? Who is it? And I looked up this morning, when Moses stood with the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt, and he stood at the Red Sea, and he had the army behind him, and they were coming in and they were attacking him, and they were going to take him, and he had the sea in front of him, and he's standing there and he's looking up to the Lord like, Lord, what do you want me to do? And what did the Lord say? Stand still, Moses, and see what I'm going to do for you today. What's the same thing that Joshua did when he went to take him? He said, look, Joshua, I'm going to fight this battle for you, right? What do we do in our life? You tell me, and I think about this when I feel like I'm offended, when I feel like something's going against me or whatever. And I feel like I need to argue about it, and I need to fight about it, and I need to explain my cause, and I need to tell you, I got a son, right, Andrew, who will fight you tooth and nail on why he's right and why this and why that and why, and right. And you just get yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into the pit until you're like, man, you can't be a witness in that situation, right? So when something comes on us and we know that we're following what God wants us to do, and who does Joseph go to? He doesn't go to Potiphar and say, look, I didn't do this, and try to justify his case, right? He goes to the Lord and says, Lord, if this is where you want me to be, and where do we need to go? The world doesn't give a rip if we get accused for something and we know we're doing right. That's when we go to God and say, Lord, I need you to fight my battle for me. I cannot fight my own battle. The more I try to fight my battle, the further I get into the pit, the further I get down, and the further they say, look, man, you see how he's acting and how because then we get fired up and our flesh takes over, and then we lose our testimony, and we just need to follow what the Lord would have for us and keep on our path, right? He ends up over there in prison, and he's like, man, you got to say he's discouraged. I mean, how can he not? Even though it says here, okay, so let's read on here, back over in Genesis 39. I'm looking at the time here, so we're on time. Back over here in Genesis 39, it says that he was put in prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined. He was there in prison, and it says in verse 21, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed into Joseph's hands all the prisoners who were in the prison. So you have him over there in the prison, and now he's following what the Lord would have him to do. And now what's he doing in the new situation that he's in? He's being elevated, right? He's being lifted up more. Is he doing that because he's doing it on his own and he put up a big thing on, look at me and look at, no, he's just following God, right? We do not have to, and I'm telling you, I say it again, that we don't have to justify ourselves. We do not have to lift ourselves up. We do not have to take self-glory. We want that because my ego wants that. I want that because of my pride. I want to have better, I want to be the one. I want to be, but that is not what we need to do, right? We need to follow God and give God glory, and God will elevate us in his time frame. If we elevate ourselves, then what happens? We get to where we shouldn't be. We get prideful. We get out of focus. We get, just do what God would have you to do. And he will find favor. And I wrote down here, and I think this is interesting. I'm going to read the rest of this, and I'm going to say this. It says that all the prisoners who were in the prison, whatever they did there, it was his doing. The keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him. Whatever he did, the Lord made to prosper. That same prison guard, just like Potiphar, saw that, hey, man, this guy is following God. Remember, there's 2,000 gods in Egypt. But who did Joseph lift up? The living God, right? There's a difference there. A living God is a God that can do something in my life. A living God that is actively working in my life. It's not something that's dead over here that has hands that can't do anything and ears that can't hear and eyes that can't see. A living God is something that actually lifts up and does something in my life. They saw that in his life, right? And I wrote down here, and I think it is of little consequence. Now I want you to think about this. It is of little consequence where the servant of God is cast. Okay. Does it matter where the Lord puts me? Doesn't matter what situation he puts me in. It is of little consequence where the servant of God is cast. We are working for the Lord wherever he puts us. It does not matter. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if I'm the president of a company. It doesn't matter if I'm sweeping floors. It doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of a struggle and people are lying about me, talking about me, doing whatever they're doing about me. Whatever situation I am in, as I am following God, that is where I'm at. What I do in that situation is I glorify God. I lift the Lord up. I praise him. I speak to people about him. I am a testimony where I'm at. A lot of times, as our consequences, our situations change, our circumstances change, what do? We get discouraged. We fall out. We say, well, Lord, if you're going to be like this to me, then I'll tell you what, man, I'm not going to follow you anymore. And I'm going to quit on you, and I'm going to do whatever. That's not what Joseph did. And it says that he's working. And so let's look over here, Hebrews 11. What is Hebrews 11? What is that known as? Faith chapter, right? Faith. And as we look at this, as I'm telling you, this week, for me, y'all pray for us that we've had more stuff go on in our lives this week than in quite some time. Okay. Just things with the family, I mean, I'm just telling you, is it easy to have faith as Joseph sitting in that prison cell and he's down there and he gets from an elevated position put into prison? It says that, yes, he was lifted up there, but before that, it says that he was shackled. So he had to be shackled first. Then he showed his faith in God, and then he was elevated, right? Do we have faith? It's easy to have faith when everything's going good. It's easy to have faith when my finances are good, my family's good, my wife's good, my job's good, my health's good. I can have faith and I can be good. When things fall apart in my life, what does that mean? That is when your faith comes up and says, are you going to follow me now? Are you going to trust me now? Are you going to do what I tell you to do now? Read over here, Hebrews 11, 1, and I'm going to read this. This is the faith chapter. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, right? Faith is a foundation. As a Christian, what is our foundation? It's our faith. That is what everything else falls on. If I don't have faith, man, then I don't have anything. It says it's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I believe, I have faith that God, your promises, that is the things that are not seen. You have promised me these things in your word. You have promised me, like I look at my children and I look at God, you told me in Proverbs that if I raise my kids in a godly manner, that they're going to come back to you, right? I'm going to believe and have faith, and I'm going to believe in that promise. And that's going to be the substance, that's the foundation of my life, right? That I'm going to do that. That is whatever it is in your life, the Lord tells you, look, you have faith, you believe, keep on believing. You know what I promised you. Look in here, and it says, and hope for the evidence of things not seen. You know, it's the things that I can't see, right? And it says, for by the elders obtained a good testimony. They believe, man. I mean, they believed. And are we only going to believe when things are good, right? Anybody can do that, right? Anybody can believe and follow and do what they're supposed to do when things are all falling into place and all, you know. But where is our faith? And I'm just challenging you as we get ready to close and whatever. You know, where is our faith? You know, it's tough, man. I'm just telling you, it's tough to have faith. Look over at James. I'm going to read another thing, and tell me what our faith. James 1. Okay. James 1, and let's look at verse 2, and this is even harder, right? My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, right? Is that when count it all joy when you fall into various trials, when I fall into various problems, right? Knowing that the testimony of your faith produces patience. As I fall into trials, right? The testimony of that is producing patience, right? That's what we're trying to do. We are trying to get closer to God in patience. And it says produces patience, but let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith without doubting. Who doubts is like a wave of the sea driven and tossed by the wind. As I doubt, right? As my faith wavers, how does the world look? How would the world look at or the prison or whoever look at Joseph as he gets put down in there? He's talking about the Lord. He's a godly person, and he's doing this. If he started wavering down there and saying, you know what, man, the Lord's forgotten about me. You know, the Lord stuck me down here, and he doesn't know me anymore. And look where he put me, and look what he's doing to me. And he started how would the world look at that? Now ask yourself, with my testimony, when I have a struggle, when I have a trial, when I have a problem in my life, if I start wavering and my face starts going up and down and I start, how is what is the goal that we have? The goal is to be a witness, right? The goal is to be a testimony. The goal is to bring people out of the world and out of the stuff and bring people into the faith, right? Into believing. And if I don't do that, what do I do? If my faith wavers, they look at me and they see that, and it says that you'll be double-minded. There you will not receive anything from the Lord. He is double-minded and unstable in all his ways, right? I mean, that's what it's talking about. So Joseph had to go into the pit. He had to go in and be elevated. He had to be put in prison because the Lord had a higher calling for him. It takes time, and you've got to be put. If we don't get tried, if we are not tempted, if we are not having struggles, then how am I going to grow in my faith? Can I grow in my faith if I'm just floating around and everything's good and easy and no problems? I grow by being put under the fire, right? I grow by struggling and by having. It says that so that while he's in prison, the Lord's teaching Joseph to grow, and the Lord's permitting that. And we're not going to have anything unless we have that faith. So let's move down, and we're gonna, and I'm not going to go here because it's time to quit. I've got to quit. It's 10:24. But where we're going to go next week, we're going to just start on that. I'm just going to kind of give you that. Down in chapter 40 of Genesis, okay? It came to pass. Now you think about, and like I said, we're not getting into this, but you've got Joseph now in prison. He's in prison of the ruler, the king of Pharaoh, okay? Down there, he's been elevated down there. He's in charge of things. And it says, it came to pass after these things that the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their lord, the king of Egypt, and Pharaoh was angry and he stuck them down in prison. Okay. So we're going to end with he's in prison, he's elevated in prison, and now you have Pharaoh, who is the head of everything, has now stuck his butler down there and his cupbearer down there. And you're going to see how the Lord works in Joseph's life to elevate him to the position that he wants. And I want to think this week as we go through our week, what are we going to go through trials? Are we going to go through struggles? Are we going to go through temptations? Yes. How are we going to deal with those? Am I going to walk the fence and walk the line and stay as close to that temptation, that trial as I can? Or am I going to turn? Am I going to submit to the Lord? I'm going to resist that. I'm going to get out of that thing. Because I'm telling you, when you're in school and when you're at work and when you're in the world, I'm telling you, the devil is hammering us. He sees what we try. He sees what we have trouble with. So stay strong. Stay strong in the Lord. Okay. I'm going to stop recording now. You guys have a blessed week. Hold on. I don't know how to stop recording. Sorry, I don't know how to stop recording. Sharon, I have to modify that later. Any comments or anything before we have just about 3 minutes? Anything anybody wants to say regarding this?